Have you ever wondered why so many relationships begin with excitement but end in disappointment? Why do so many couples who once promised to love each other forever eventually drift apart? The answer isn't simply a lack of love. Often, it's a misunderstanding of what love truly is. Today, we're going to explore God's design for love and marriage. Whether you're single, dating, engaged, newly married, or have been married for decades, these biblical principles can transform the way you see relationships. The Bible teaches that marriage was never just a human idea. It was God's idea from the very beginning. In Genesis, after creating Adam, God said, "It is not good for the man to be alone." Then he created Eve, not as a servant or a superior, but as a suitable partner. Together, they reflected God's design for companionship, unity, and love. This reminds us that marriage is more than a legal contract. It is a sacred covenant before God. Unfortunately, today's culture often presents love as nothing more than a feeling. Movies, songs, and social media tell us that if the feelings disappear, the relationship is over. But the Bible paints a very different picture. Biblical love is not based only on emotion. It is a decision. It is a commitment. It is choosing another person's good even when it's difficult. That doesn't mean emotions don't matter. God created emotions, and romantic love is a beautiful gift. But emotions alone cannot sustain a lifelong marriage. Feelings change, circumstances change, and people grow. A marriage built only on feelings will struggle whenever those feelings fade. That's why 1 Corinthians 13 describes love in such practical terms. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Notice that every one of these qualities requires action. Love isn't just something you feel, it's something you do. One of the biggest mistakes people make is confusing love with infatuation. Infatuation is intense. It's exciting. It makes your heart race. But it often focuses on how someone makes you feel. True love goes much deeper. True love remains faithful when life becomes difficult. It stays committed through sickness and health, through financial struggles, disagreements, disappointments, and seasons when emotions aren't as strong. Jesus demonstrated this kind of love perfectly. He didn't love humanity because we deserved it. He loved us while we were still sinners. He sacrificed himself for our salvation. This is the standard God calls married couples to follow, a love that serves instead of demanding to be served. Marriage isn't about asking, "What can I get?" It's about asking, "How can I give?" This doesn't mean allowing abuse or accepting sin. The Bible never encourages anyone to remain in dangerous situations. But within a healthy, God-honoring marriage, both husband and wife are called to serve one another with humility. Another misunderstanding about marriage is believing that your spouse exists to complete you. Only God can truly satisfy the deepest needs of your heart. If you expect your husband or wife to meet every emotional, spiritual, and personal need, you'll eventually place impossible expectations on them. Marriage works best when two people who are already growing in their relationship with God come together to encourage one another. Think of it like a triangle. God stands at the top, while the husband and wife stand at the two bottom corners. As each person grows closer to God, they naturally grow closer to each other. That's why the strongest marriages aren't centered on money, appearance, or success. They're centered on Christ. Communication is another essential part of a healthy marriage. Many marriages don't fail because love disappeared. They fail because communication stopped. People begin assuming instead of asking. They criticize instead of listening. They argue to win instead of seeking understanding. James tells believers to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Imagine how different marriages would be if every couple lived by those simple words. Listening is one of the greatest expressions of love. Sometimes your spouse doesn't need a solution. They simply need someone who genuinely hears them. Healthy communication also requires honesty. Secrets destroy trust. Trust takes years to build, but only moments to break. A strong marriage is built on truth, transparency, and integrity. Forgiveness is equally important. No marriage is perfect because no person is perfect. There will be misunderstandings. There will be moments of disappointment. There will be mistakes. The question isn't whether you'll need forgiveness. The question is whether you'll choose to give it. Forgiveness doesn't excuse wrong behavior. It releases bitterness so healing can begin. God has forgiven us through Christ, and He calls us to extend that same grace to others. That can be difficult, but it's one of the greatest demonstrations of genuine love. Marriage also requires humility. Pride says, "I'm always right." Humility says, "Help me understand." Pride keeps score. Humility seeks peace. Pride builds walls. Humility builds bridges. When both husband and wife choose humility, conflict becomes an opportunity for growth rather than destruction. Every successful marriage is made up of two imperfect people who continually choose grace over pride, forgiveness over bitterness, and commitment over convenience. The foundation of every lasting marriage isn't perfection. It's God's love working through two hearts that are willing to grow together. And that brings us to an important question. If marriage reflects God's relationship with His people, are we treating it with the honor and commitment it deserves? In the next part, we'll explore the biblical responsibilities of husbands and wives, practical ways to strengthen a marriage, common traps that destroy relationships, and how couples can build a lifelong partnership that glorifies God. If you like more videos like this, please like and subscribe and share it to someone who needs this. Watch out for part 2.